You know that feeling when something in your house just doesn't sit right with you? Like when you walk past a certain room and get this weird chill down your spine. Or when you hear a noise that makes you freeze up completely. Well, I've been living with that feeling for 3 months now, and it's getting worse every single night. I'm Jake, and I've been dealing with something in my basement that I can't explain. Something that's been keeping me awake, making me question my sanity, and honestly making me consider moving out of the house I've lived in for 6 years. What started as a weird discovery has turned into something that's completely taking over my life. 3 months ago, I found a door in my basement that wasn't there before. I know how that sounds. I know you're probably thinking I'm crazy or making this up for views, but I swear on everything I hold dear that this door appeared out of nowhere. But here's the thing that's really messing with my head. Every single night, that door gets closer to the basement stairs. Not by much, maybe a few inches, but it's definitely moving. By the end of this video, I'm going to show you the evidence I've been collecting, the measurements I've been taking, and the absolutely terrifying discovery I made just 2 nights ago that changed everything. I've got photos, videos, and documentation that proves something is seriously wrong in my house. And honestly, after what happened last night, I'm not sure I can stay here much longer. But let me start from the beginning, because this whole nightmare started with something completely normal. A broken water heater. It was a Tuesday morning in early September when I woke up to ice-cold water in my shower. The water heater in my basement had finally given up after 12 years of faithful service. I remember being more annoyed than anything else because I had to get ready for work, and suddenly I'm dealing with this freezing shower situation. After calling in sick and spending the morning on the phone with repair companies, I finally got a guy to come out that afternoon. The repair guy, this older dude named Frank, went down to the basement to check out the water heater. I was upstairs making coffee when I heard him yelling for me to come down. I thought maybe he needed help moving something or had found some other problem I'd have to deal with. But when I got down there, Frank was standing in the corner of the basement staring at the wall with this confused look on his face. "Hey, when did you install this door?" he asked, pointing to what looked like a regular wooden door built into the basement wall. It was painted white, had a standard brass doorknob, and honestly looked like it had been there forever. The weird thing was, I had no memory of that door existing. I stood there for probably 30 seconds just staring at it, trying to remember if I'd somehow forgotten about a door in my own basement. Frank was looking at me like I was losing it, which honestly I was starting to think I might be. I told him I wasn't sure, maybe it was some kind of storage closet the previous owners had built. He shrugged and went back to working on the water heater. But after Frank left, I couldn't stop thinking about that door. I went back down to the basement and really looked at it. The door was positioned on the east wall, right next to my workbench. I tried to remember the layout of my basement from when I first moved in, and I could swear that wall had always been solid. No door, no opening, just drywall and some old shelving units. I tried the doorknob and it was locked. Not just locked, but like really locked. The knob wouldn't turn at all, and when I pressed my ear against the door, I couldn't hear anything on the other side. I spent about an hour looking for a key, checking drawers, cabinets, even looking through the junk drawer in the kitchen. Nothing. That night, I called my friend Marcus, who helped me move into the house 6 years ago. I asked him if he remembered seeing a door in the basement, and he said no, definitely not. Marcus has a really good memory for stuff like that, and he specifically remembered commenting on how the basement was just one big open room with concrete walls. We both remembered having to maneuver my couch down the stairs and how there was plenty of wall space to lean it against while we figured out the best angle to get it upstairs. I started questioning everything. Maybe I had some kind of memory problem. Maybe the door had always been there and I just never noticed it. But the more I thought about it, the more convinced I became that something was seriously wrong. The next morning, I decided to measure the distance from the door to the basement stairs. I don't know why I did this. Maybe I was just trying to document everything in case I really was losing my mind. I used a measuring tape and found that the door was exactly 14 feet and 7 inches from the bottom step. I wrote this down in a notebook along with the date and time. For the next few days, I kept going down to the basement and staring at that door. I tried the handle every time, hoping it might open, but it stayed locked. I even tried using some basic tools to see if I could get it open, but the door seemed solid as a rock. The weird thing was, the more I looked at it, the more it seemed like it belonged there. Like maybe my memory really was playing tricks on me. But then, exactly 1 week after I first noticed the door, I went down to the basement and something felt different. I couldn't put my finger on it at first, but the whole room felt smaller somehow. I looked around trying to figure out what had changed, and then I saw it. The door was closer to the stairs. I immediately got my measuring tape and checked the distance. 13 feet and 11 inches. The door had moved 8 inches closer to the stairs. 8 inches. I stood there staring at my notebook, looking at the measurements, and I felt this cold dread wash over me. Doors don't move. Houses don't rearrange themselves. But the numbers didn't lie. I called Marcus again, and this time I sounded completely panicked. I told him about the measurements, about how the door had moved, and he said he'd come over that weekend to take a look. But when Marcus came over on Saturday, he looked at the door and said it looked completely normal to him. He said it looked like it had always been there, and when I showed him my measurements, he suggested maybe I had measured wrong the first time, but I knew I hadn't measured wrong. I'm obsessive about stuff like that. I double-check everything, especially when I'm documenting something important. I measured that door 3 times on the first day, and I got the same result every time. 14 feet and 7 inches. That night, I decided to set up a camera in the basement. I had this old security camera from when I was worried about break-ins a few years back, and I positioned it so it would record the door and the area around it. I set it to record continuously and hoped I'd either catch the door moving or prove to myself that I was imagining things. The next morning, I rushed downstairs to check the camera footage. 8 hours of video, and I watched every single minute of it. For the first 6 hours, nothing happened. The door stayed exactly where it was. But then, At around 3 in the morning, something incredible happened. The door didn't move. Instead, everything around it moved. The walls, the floor, the ceiling, the entire basement seemed to shift slightly, like the whole foundation of the house was repositioning itself. It only lasted about 30 seconds, and it was so subtle that if I hadn't been looking for it, I probably would have missed it completely. When it was over, the door was 6 inches closer to the stairs. I watched that footage probably 20 times, and each time it made less sense. The whole basement had shifted, like the house was alive and slowly rearranging itself. I saved the video file and immediately started researching online. I searched for everything I could think of. Houses moving, shifting foundations, basement anomalies, doors appearing out of nowhere. Most of what I found was just ghost stories or people making stuff up for internet points. But then I found this forum post from someone in Oregon who described almost the exact same thing happening to them. This guy claimed he had a door appear in his garage, and every night it got closer to his car. He documented it for 3 weeks before it finally reached his vehicle. According to his post, the door opened by itself on the 22nd night, and he never posted again after that. The forum thread was from 2019, and when I tried to message the user, his account had been deleted. I started measuring the door every single day. Sometimes it moved 3 inches, sometimes 8 inches, but it was always getting closer to the stairs. I set up 2 more cameras from different angles, and every single night around 3 in the morning, the whole basement would do this weird shift. The cameras would shake slightly, and when they stabilized, the door would be closer. My sleep schedule was completely destroyed. I'd lie in bed every night staring at the ceiling, knowing that at 3 a.m. my house was going to move. I tried staying awake and going down to the basement to watch it happen in person, but every time I did, nothing would occur. It was like the house knew I was watching and refused to perform its nightly ritual. After 2 weeks of this, I called a structural engineer. I told him I was worried about foundation problems and settling issues. When he came out to inspect the basement, he said everything looked completely normal. Solid foundation, no cracks, no signs of shifting or movement. He looked at me like I was wasting his time and charged me $300 for basically telling me my house was fine. But I knew it wasn't fine. I had hours of video evidence showing my basement transforming itself every single night. I had measurements that proved beyond any doubt that this door was moving closer to the stairs. I started printing out photos and organizing them chronologically. I made charts and graphs showing the door's progression. I documented everything because I knew that eventually someone would need to see this evidence. The door was now only 6 feet away from the stairs. At the rate it was moving, I calculated it would reach the bottom step in about 10 days. I had no idea what would happen then, but based on that forum post I'd found, I wasn't eager to find out. That's when I decided to try something different. Instead of just documenting the door's movement, I wanted to see what was behind it. I spent an entire Saturday trying to pick the lock, and when that didn't work, I got more aggressive. I used a crowbar, a hammer, even tried to remove the hinges. Nothing worked. The door was like it was welded shut, completely immovable. Then I had another idea. If I couldn't open the door, maybe I could see what was behind it. I went to the hardware store and bought a small drill bit, thinking I could make a tiny hole and peek through. But when I tried to drill into the door, the bit wouldn't penetrate. It was like trying to drill through steel, even though the door looked and felt like ordinary wood. 3 nights ago, something changed. The door was now only 3 feet from the stairs, and I could feel something different in the air when I went down to the basement. It was colder, and there was this weird humming sound that seemed to come from behind the door. I pressed my ear against it and could hear what sounded like whispers, but I couldn't make out any words. I set up my cameras as usual and went to bed, but I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what would happen when the door finally reached the stairs. Would it open? Would whatever was behind it come out? I lay there until about 2:30, then decided I couldn't take it anymore. I had to go down and see what was happening. I crept down the stairs as quietly as I could, and when I got to the basement, I could see the door in the dim light from the hallway. It was so close now that I could almost touch it from the bottom step. The humming was louder, and I could definitely hear voices whispering behind the door. Multiple voices, all talking at once, but too quiet to understand. I stood there for about 10 minutes just listening when I heard my name. Clear as day, someone behind the door whispered, "Jake." I froze completely. Then I heard it again, but this time it was my mom's voice calling my name like she used to when I was a kid. But my mom had been dead for 3 years. I ran upstairs and locked myself in my bedroom. I didn't come out until noon the next day, and when I finally went back down to the basement, the door was exactly where it had been. For the first time in weeks, it hadn't moved during the night. But last night, everything changed. The door didn't just move closer, it moved past the stairs completely. When I went down to check on it this morning, the door was now positioned directly at the bottom of the stairs, blocking my path back up. I'm trapped down here, and I can hear those voices getting louder. The doorknob is starting to turn by itself just slightly, like someone on the other side is testing it. I've been down here for 6 hours now, and I'm running out of battery on my phone. I managed to upload this video using my basement Wi-Fi, but I don't know how much longer I'll have signal. If you're watching this, please don't ignore it like I wanted to ignore that forum post. If you find a door in your house that wasn't there before, get out immediately. Don't measure it, don't document it, don't try to open it, just leave. The door is opening now. I can see light coming from behind it, and the voices are getting clearer. They're saying my name over and over, but they're not friendly voices anymore. They sound angry, like they've been waiting for me for a very long time. I'm going to try to make a run for it, but I don't think the door is going to let me pass. If something happens to me, at least you'll know what really happened. The door in my basement wasn't just moving closer each night. It was bringing something with it. Something that's been waiting patiently for the right moment to finally come through. The door is wide open now. I can see them. Oh God, I can see them coming through.